Monday afternoon to you. I'm Dakota Makris. Steve is off all week, so looks like you're stuck with me. Well, first at 4 today, Governor Andy Beshear announced high-speed internet is coming to several counties across Kentucky. He said more than $89 million in grants from the state's Better Internet program is going toward the project. Now, the 12 internet service providers receiving those funds have pledged to match them. Shelby Lofton takes us to one community who's handling broadband expansion on its own.
Governor Beshear said high-speed internet is coming to 36 Kentucky counties, but some communities have already taken broadband expansion into their own hands. Scott County is in the middle of its own internet accessibility plan. The county conducted a street-by-street survey to assess who had stable internet and who didn't. They determined more than 5,000 homes and businesses were lacking. Scott County Judge Executive Joe Pat Covington said it's a necessary resource. He said expanding broadband across the entire state is important because Kentuckians need it for telemedicine, work from home, and online schooling. Scott County is working with Spectrum to carry out its plan. He said this project will take some time and a lot of planning, and he's glad Scott County got a head start.
With Governor Beshear's announcement today, you know, all of those counties will need to go through the same process that we have with Spectrum over the last few months of engineering, design, and pole permitting, and then there'll be a lot of work going on, and I'm glad that we're where we're at and should be out in front on a lot of this. So I'm proud of what we've done.
Judge Covington said Scott County's plan should take about 24 months to complete. He said it's set to be finished by October of 2023. In Scott County, Shelby Lofton, WYMT.
As for eastern and southern Kentucky, Powell and Wayne counties will benefit from the grants announced today. Well, in the midst of the warm weather and with kids out of school, you might be out and about walking, running, or riding bikes near roads. It is important to stay cautious of your surroundings and to use all safety precautions when near roads. Scott Lockard with the Kentucky River District Health Department says a way pedestrians can stay safe is by wearing light clothing so they are easily seen by drivers.
You know, also too, is with the high gas prices, if we have the ability to walk to the post office now or walk to the store, we may choose to do that. Be mindful of that. Always use designated crosswalks when crossing the streets.
Well, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports a pedestrian is killed in a road-related incident every 84 minutes in the U.S. We'll have more on this story tonight at 6 o'clock.
I'll tell you, it wasn't a bad weekend for a walk around town, or even as we head into this afternoon. It's warm in some spots, but it's not too bad out there. Big time heat. That's still to return as we head later on into the week. I-64 at Moorhead, we've got some filtered sunshine, but those clouds have stayed with us in some spots. It's kept it just a touch cooler today. As we head out toward London Corbin Airport, more sunshine, but again, some high clouds there. Mid-80s at the moment. In fact, you see, as you head out toward Lake Cumberland, we're in the middle, in the upper 80s, I should say. Monticello checking in at 90. But look at the other side of the region as we head towards the Big Sandy, low to mid-70s. We're in the upper 80s. We head towards places, upper 70s. There we go, in places like Prestonsburg, Pikeville, and Clintwood. And in the middle, well, we're in the low 80s here in Hazard. Same thing in Jackson. Notice those dew points. They're in the 40s and 50s. That means it's pretty dry outside. We're not dealing with those astronomical feels-like temperatures like we were last week. In fact, right now in Monticello, because it's so dry, it actually feels cooler to the skin than the actual air temperature. Nothing really doing on pinpoint Doppler. I mean, maybe a sprinkle, but other than that, we're in good shape. You see, though, it's the edge of the ring of fire, as we call it. It's centered out to the west of us, so that we're seeing a few of those clouds as we work our way through the remainder of this evening. It's something we'll watch as we continue to watch things here as we run through this afternoon and this evening. WYMT weather app, keep it handy. We're going to be in the 80s as we head through the nighttime hours, falling eventually into the 60s overnight. Doesn't feel too uncomfortable thanks to the low humidity we have outside. Now, I'll have the latest on when some heat could return to the forecast and if any showers or storms could help cool us off. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Dakota?
All right, Evan, thank you. Well, a frustrating situation for thousands of Americans trying to go on vacation, as thousands of passengers are left stranded in part because of staffing issues for airlines in the air and on the ground. CBS's Elise Preston reports from New Jersey's Newark Liberty Airport.
Understaffed airports and airlines are being slammed, and it's taking a toll on travelers.
At this point, I don't have any high hopes.
We're talking 10 hours.
More than 900 flights were canceled on Sunday alone. Delta getting hit the hardest with more than 200 cancellations. Delta apologized, saying in a statement a variety of factors continue to impact our operations, including challenges with air traffic control, weather, and unscheduled absences. Canceling a flight is always our last resort. Since the start of June, U.S. airports have seen an average of 2.2 million flyers every day.
They didn't tell them why it was canceled, but they canceled everybody's flight.
The industry has been struggling, receiving tens of billions in federal aid since the start of the pandemic. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg met with airline executives right before the weekend, telling them to stick to their flight schedules and to hire more customer service agents, giving them until the 4th of July weekend to do better or face potential fines. CBS News senior travel advisor Peter Greenberg.
You can hire as many customer service agents as you want to say, I'm sorry, but if you don't fix the root problems, the apologies will continue. You got to be able to find pilots. There's a shortage. You have to be able to find people who work under the wing, ground handlers, baggage loaders.
Until staffing increases as a whole, Greenberg expects more disruptions through September.
After that meeting with airline executives, Secretary Buttigieg had his own flight canceled and had to drive from Washington, D.C. to New York. Some tips to keep in mind for your own air travel: try to book the first flight out and arrive at least 3 hours early. Elise Preston, CBS News, Newark International Airport.
Well, the issues go beyond the U.S. borders, as London's Heathrow Airport has to take steps of its own to maintain normal operations. The airport has asked airlines to cut 10% of their flights into the airport, citing severe baggage backlog after a technical glitch this past weekend. British media reported on Monday that 15,000 passengers would be left stranded by the cancellations, but Heathrow said less than 5,000 would be affected. The number will likely be somewhere in between, since it is up to each airline whether they agree to the request. U.S. aircraft maker Boeing has revealed its new 2022 eco-demonstrator plane. Well, it's a converted 20-year-old 777-200ER that will be used for testing new technologies aimed at making air travel more sustainable and safer. The eco-demonstrator will go through a 6-month series of tests on the ground and in the sky starting this summer. Boeing's eco-demonstrator program launched a decade ago and has tested about 230 technologies. Boeing says about a third of them have already been incorporated into products and services. Heading over to Wall Street on this Monday, the markets are closed in observance of the Juneteenth holiday after ending one of the worst weeks since March 2020 on Friday. Well, they will reopen tomorrow. Well, today is the first time Juneteenth is being widely observed, with closures of federal agencies, banks, schools, and more. Last year, Juneteenth became a federal holiday just 2 days earlier. The short notice meant many organizations didn't have time to prepare for it. The holiday commemorates when Union Army General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce enslaved people had been liberated. Well, that was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, we take a more in-depth look at how the day is being observed across our country in our next half hour. Well, still on the way as water levels continue to decline in the American Southwest. One major lake is revealing some grim findings previously hidden for years.
Plus, after a gorgeous weekend, summer's heat returns just in time for the summer solstice. The latest on our early week warm-up coming up.